This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
We bring you the latest on the global war against coronavirus as the death toll reaches 3,067. Gunmen kill at least 50 people in Nigeria's Kaduna state. And Greece and Hungary close their borders to asylum seekers amid an influx from Turkey. This is CGTN. Welcome to Africa Live with me, Beatrice Marshall in Nairobi. We'll bring you the details on those stories in just a moment, but first, Uche Okoronko with the day's business headlines. Uche.
Thank you, Beatrice. And here's a look at what's coming up on Africa Live Biz. Oil prices rebound as traders project supply cuts by OPEC this week. And Somalia welcomes a historic decision by the World Bank to normalize ties. Of course, all that coming up within the program. For now, back to you, Beatrice.
Uche, thank you. The world is battling coronavirus on all continents except Antarctica. Let's take a snapshot of the world's war on COVID-19. In South Korea, the worst hit country outside China, the head of the religious sect that has been at the center of the coronavirus outbreak apologized to the nation for the spread of the disease. Lee Man-he, the leader of the Sincheonji Church of Jesus, got on his knees and bowed at a news conference. About 60% of the country's more than 4,000 confirmed cases are sect members. Now to Iran, the country with the highest number of cases in the Middle East. A member of an advisory council to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has died from the new coronavirus, as other top officials in the country are confirmed to be infected. 71-year-old Mohammed Mir Mohammadi was an expediency council member who advised Khamenei and settled disputes between him and parliament. COVID-19 has already infected one of Iran's vice presidents as well as the deputy health minister. Iran on Monday rejected assistance from U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Italy has the heaviest coronavirus burden in Europe and recorded a 50% rise in new cases on Monday. Lockdowns on towns with coronavirus has effectively left at least 100,000 people under quarantine in the country. In the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Monday called an emergency Cobra meeting as he warned Britain to expect a further spread of the virus. Britain has confirmed at least 36 cases of the virus. Australia's chief medical officer has warned that it is no longer possible to completely prevent people with the coronavirus from entering the country, citing concerns about outbreaks in Japan and South Korea. Australia, one of the first countries to put restrictions on its borders so as to limit the spread of the virus, confirmed its first death from the disease on Sunday. Now, the United States has confirmed its second coronavirus death in Washington as the U.S. Food and Drugs Administration announced it was expanding testing. In Algeria, the nation with Africa's highest number of confirmed cases after announcing 2 more. It now has 3 cases as quarantine measures are instituted. And in Nigeria, where there is 1 confirmed coronavirus case in Lagos, some regions have reported a scramble for sanitizers and masks amid scarcity. The Plateau state has announced a quarantine of 43 people. They're being monitored for symptoms of the disease. And Egypt's health ministry has also announced 1 confirmed case, a foreigner said to have interacted with people at a petroleum company in a remote area near the border with Libya. Globally, experts are warning about a major hit on stock markets. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development says the coronavirus outbreak presents the world economy with its greatest danger since the global financial crisis of 2008. And the World Health Organization said on Sunday that the virus seems to be mainly affecting people above 60 years of age and those already ill. It says the main intervention for those with serious COVID-19 is oxygen therapy, so the world should stock up on oxygen ventilators. Let's now go into the details on Africa Live. Let's start with the latest on the COVID-19 outbreak. Portugal, Andorra, Indonesia and Jordan have reported their first cases on Monday as the virus continues to spread around the world. In China, however, the number of new cases has reached a new low, with around 200 reported on Sunday. Over 90% of them were in Hubei province, where the outbreak began. Across the country, nearly 3,000 more patients have been discharged from hospitals, and no new deaths were reported outside of Hubei. China's total number of cases now stands at more than 80,000. More than half have recovered, and over 2,900 have died. Outside China, more than 9,000 cases have been reported in over 60 countries, with 152 deaths. South Korea reported nearly 600 new cases on Monday, raising the total to over 4,300. Japan also has nearly 1,000 confirmed cases so far. Italy has the largest tally outside Asia, reaching over 1,700. Iran, the worst-hit country in the Middle East, has reported over 500 new cases, bringing its overall tally past the 1,500 mark. More than 60 people have died in the country. Now, during the peak of the coronavirus outbreak in China, a number of public places in Wuhan were transformed into temporary hospitals to provide more beds for the overwhelming number of patients. But as the number of new confirmed cases decrease, the city has suspended operations in one such facility. Liu Xingqing reports.
After 3 weeks of intensive work, finally comes the moment to pack up. The Wuhan Stadium Hospital is one of 16 temporary hospitals built in Wuhan City to help treat coronavirus patients. It has become the first hospital to suspend operations as the number of newly confirmed COVID-19 cases remains low, and while more patients are cured and released.
Currently, temporary hospitals are still treating 7,600 patients, with 5,600 more beds available. These hospitals have treated more than 20% of the total number of patients with mild symptoms. We've noticed some positive trends. When we first set up temporary hospitals, a lot of confirmed patients were forced to stay at home as there was not enough beds in the hospitals. So these temporary ones have played a significant role during this period.
This is a major sign of relief because just about 2 weeks ago, the deputy mayor of Wuhan told the press that the city planned to build another 19 temporary hospitals with 30,000 beds. But the alert is still on.
We were asked to stand by. That's why we are suspending operations instead of closing the hospital. Now, we'll rest and get ready to answer the call whenever needed.
Dr. Ma Ying is a member of the Shanxi medical team. She said it has been an intense month. When she was told the hospital operations were suspended, Ma Ying rushed to the gate to take a photo before leaving the facility. She said she was proud to help the people of Wuhan with her professional skills.
We've been here for more than 20 days. We transferred the last batch of 66 patients to Wuhan No. 1 hospital and accomplished our mission here. We are ready to be deployed to another hospital to offer more help.
More hope can be expected. The total number of newly confirmed patients these days is only about 1/10 of the peak. Director Peng told me as more patients are released and new cases are kept at a much lower level, more temporary hospitals are expected to suspend operations and close after accomplishing their missions. Liu Xingqing, CGTN, Wuhan, Hubei Province.
Meanwhile, Algeria has confirmed 2 new cases of the coronavirus. They have brought to 3 the total number of infections in the country. The victims, a 53-year-old woman and her 24-year-old daughter, have been put in isolation in Blida province, south of the capital, Algiers. Well, let's get more now from our correspondent, Karim Fezi. He's joining us on the phone from Algiers. Karim, so what are the authorities saying about the 2 new cases and how they might have contracted the disease?
Well, the 2 new cases regard, as you said, a 24-year-old daughter with her mother who's 53. Technically, the authorities say that they have been placed in isolation since last Friday in Bufarik Hospital, and that is in Blida province, west of the capital, Algiers. The 2 new cases were contaminated by a relative, a man, technically, who came from France visiting, and he presented flu symptoms. The flu symptoms seem to be some kind of chronic. So he preferred returning to France, where he is currently hospitalized at the Salpêtrière Hospital. So this is when the two patients technically were informed by their relative, and they went to the hospital for tests, and unfortunately they tested positive. So it's weird that this is happening despite the preventive measures taken by the Algerian authorities at different border entry points. So I don't know what to say more.
Right, but there was another case in Algiers reported last week, because this now brings the total to 3. Any update on the first case that was reported earlier on?
Well, technically, I wouldn't say 3 because the Italian authority evacuated the Italian national who was infected by the coronavirus, and he was put in quarantine in Algeria for a while around strict preventive measures. But his transfer was made later on with a special medical team and a small Italian jet, taking all the preventive measures, such as isolating the medical team with glass and all of that.
So how have these cases impacted the places where they were discovered?
Well, technically, life definitely was impacted. The people have always been cautious around this issue. I mean, since the discovery of the first case in Algeria, there is an absence of trust really between the people and the government, and the discovery of these new cases actually brings the gap even bigger. Because what we notice is that in every single time, the authority did not detect it on its own. It was either informed by the Italian, or it was informed by technically this relative who went to France and he tested positive, and he informed his relatives, and they went. So since the passenger could actually pass through the borders like this, is not something, let's say, reassuring. So many people are taking this seriously. But then on the other hand, especially after the authorities announced that the Italian national was infected and came to Algeria, technically they thought that it was some kind of a conspiracy theory or something. They did not really take it seriously, but now things change.
All right, Karim Fezi joining us there from Algiers on the line. Thank you for that update. While staying in that region, Egypt has announced its second confirmed COVID-19 case. The patient is a foreigner who reportedly interacted with people at a petroleum company in a remote area near the border with Libya. He has been quarantined and his health is being closely monitored. Here's CGTN's Adel Mahroui with the story.
The Egyptian Health Ministry and the World Health Organization have both confirmed a new COVID-19 case in Egypt. A foreigner who has arrived to the country about 2 weeks ago and has shown minor symptoms of the disease.
He is a Canadian citizen who works as a petroleum engineer in an Egyptian company. He arrived on February 19th. He has been immediately moved to Egypt's Al Negela Hospital, a place dedicated for COVID-19.
There is already higher demand on Egyptian public healthcare services than those available. It's why Egypt fears an outbreak of COVID-19 would put more burden on an already overloaded healthcare network. It's why the government says it has taken what it describes as tough measures against all of those who came in contact with the new case.
The closest two people to the case, a driver and a nurse, and the rest of his colleagues at work, have all tested negative for the coronavirus so far. That person came to Cairo from Canada via transit in Germany. From the airport in Cairo, he directly moved to work and has not come in contact with any other people on the way. It's still not clear where he was infected.
This is the second COVID-19 case reported in Egypt. The first was a Chinese citizen who had shown no symptoms. He stayed in Egypt's quarantine hospital for 2 weeks until he tested negative for the coronavirus. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Let's bring you some news coming in from Senegal. Senegal has just confirmed its first case of coronavirus, becoming the second country in sub-Saharan Africa with a confirmed case. Reports say the victim was a French national who entered the country aboard an Air Senegal flight on February 29th. Nigeria is the other sub-Saharan African country with a confirmed case. Tunisia has also just confirmed one case. The Tunisian Ministry of Health says the patient is a Tunisian man. This now brings the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Africa to 7. We'll bring you more updates as we get the details. Now, following the news of Nigeria's first case of coronavirus last week, Nigerians are rushing to get protective gear like face masks and hygiene products like hand sanitizers and hand wipes. This has caused a scarcity and price hikes at pharmacies and stores across the country. Over 3,000 people have died globally from the outbreak of the disease, but the Nigerian government says it is doing its best to prevent it from spreading. Our correspondent Phil Ihaza reports from the nation's capital, Abuja.
Empty shelves reflect the absence of hand sanitizers, face masks and hand wash soaps at this pharmacy in Abuja. Pharmacist Sunday Ike says panic buying from residents has created a huge scarcity of the products.
Face masks and hand sanitizers, even spirit has been in high demand since the outbreak of coronavirus. And there has been a huge traffic. But the major challenge is that we don't even have it to sell or to dispense. And that's really the major challenge. I, for one, didn't even know until I exhausted the quantity I have before I now got to know that the price has gone up and things like that. And I needed to buy, to restock. Well, it's been a challenge.
Sunday's pharmacy is one of many others across Nigeria that have run out of stock of their items. Nigeria recorded its first case of coronavirus when an Italian national tested positive to the disease in Lagos. Over 100 people who were suspected to have had contact with the patient have already been placed in quarantine by the government. The rise in demand of hand sanitizers, face masks and hand wash came after the government's call for better hygiene practices across the country.
All Nigerians should therefore take care of their own health and maintain hand and respiratory hygiene to protect themselves, protect their families and others, following the precautions which I give you below. First, regularly and thoroughly wash your hands with soap and water and use alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
The government, through its Agency for Consumer Protection, has said it will take action against any store or pharmacy found hoarding or inflating the price of the products. However, pharmacists say that more needs to be done.
To match the scarcity we are seeing now, or the price hike, is for government to come in, increase production, especially for hand sanitizer. For face masks, of course, we can already begin to think inward. How can we do things ourselves? What government can do to support our local manufacturers? Because I think this is a time for us to really think inward.
The government has also released about $2 million so far to the Health Ministry to help tackle the spread of the disease and purchase all necessary items required for treatment and prevention. However, with the rapid spread of the disease across the world, there are fears of being able to contain the virus in Nigeria.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has called for calm from all citizens and stressed that undue panic will do more harm than good in the efforts to contain coronavirus. He has assured Nigerians of the government's preparedness to prevent the outbreak of the disease. Phil Ihaza, CGTN, Abuja, Nigeria.
In other news we are following for you today, at least 50 people have been killed and several others injured as gunmen suspected to be bandits attacked some villages in the northwestern state of Kaduna. According to local reports, the attackers stormed the villages in the early hours of Sunday morning, shortly after religious prayers. Phili Haza reports from Abuja.
The bandits attacked 4 communities in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State and killed over 50 persons, according to one of the village chiefs, the Yabu Kerawa. Kerawa, who confirmed the incident, said all the deceased have been buried already, while many other victims who sustained injuries were taken to a nearby hospital for treatment. Many residents reportedly fled as the assailant also set many houses ablaze and carted away foodstuffs. According to the village chief, the gunmen launched a revenge attack against the villagers for providing information to security agencies last month, which resulted in the killing of some bandits. The Nigerian police, through its spokesperson Frank Mba, had announced last month that a special combat operation led to the killing of 250 alleged militants in Kaduna State. Kaduna State has suffered several attacks by bandits and kidnappers in recent times. 3 weeks ago, bandits stormed another village in Giwa local government area of the state and killed at least 20 persons. Locals say security forces have launched offensive attacks against the bandits after this latest incident, killing many of them in the process. Phil Ihaza, CGTN, Abuja.
You're watching Africa Live, still ahead on the program. Greece and Hungary closed their borders to asylum seekers amid an influx from Turkey. And face to face with an unusual hyena, a new mental illness therapy worries health experts in Somalia.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca, among the crowds in Cairo,
who come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt.
Along the waters of the Nile, along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
Greece and Hungary are closing their borders to asylum seekers amid the coronavirus outbreak. Both countries announced the measures as Turkey opened its border over the weekend for migrants to find their way to the European Union. Our correspondent Isabel Ewing is in Budapest.
Chaos at the border of Turkey and Greece. Eyewitness footage shows people carrying the bloodied body of a man reported to have been killed as Greek security forces attempted to stop migrants from crossing the border. Greece has called the footage fake news. These are some of the 1,000 migrants who've reached Greece's eastern Aegean islands since Sunday morning. And they are the lucky ones. A child died when a boat capsized off the coast of Lesbos. As they arrive at shore, local residents shout at them to go back to where they came from.
Go now, okay, go!
The increasingly violent resistance to migrants comes after the Greek Prime Minister issued this warning.
Our National Security Council has taken the decision to increase the level of deterrence at our borders to the maximum.
The Greek government announced for the next month it will not accept any asylum applications from people entering the country illegally and, where possible, will immediately return them to the country they entered from.
The borders of Greece are the external borders of Europe. We will protect them. Once more, do not attempt to enter Greece illegally. You will be turned back.
At the border between Greece and Turkey, tension is escalating as a result of Turkey opening its gates over the weekend for thousands of migrants to cross into Europe, after President Recep Erdogan said his country could not handle the huge numbers of people fleeing war in Syria. It comes as Turkey declares a major offensive against Bashar al-Assad's government, steeply escalating Ankara's involvement in Syria's 9-year war.
They say it's to 72 hours. We should go.
The tough measures announced by Greece are not permitted by European Union law, but the country has asked for special dispensation from the bloc. The Greek government has accused Turkey of becoming a trafficker instead of cracking down on illegal migrants. Those caught up in the increasingly volatile standoff between the two countries are now left to face winter weather and further uncertainty.
I'm from Iran, city Tehran.
While those who do manage to cross still face further obstacles. Here in Hungary, the government has announced it will stop letting people without visas into the transit zones at its southern border, citing a link between the new coronavirus and migration. The Prime Minister's domestic security advisor said that most migrants come from or through Iran, where the coronavirus has killed 54 people. Local media pointed out that most recent Iranian arrivals would have lived in closed Turkish camps for years, not Iran. Isabel Ewing, CGTN, Budapest.
To New York now, and stores are no longer allowed to give out plastic bags. The statewide ban aims to reduce an estimated 23 billion plastic bags used every year. But the ban comes many years after similar programs were introduced in other parts of the world, and critics say it does not go far enough to protect the environment. Sarah Walton reports.
For decades, New Yorkers have used plastic bags for shopping. But from March, residents will have to use these paper bags or bring their own from home. The state has banned most stores from giving out single-use plastic bags. This Manhattan supermarket began preparing a year ago, but not all their customers were ready.
Generally, in life, people don't like change, whatever it is. So people are apprehensive. The biggest complaint that I get, believe it or not, is what are we going to use for our garbage bags?
The bag waste reduction law targets more than just grocery stores. There will be some exceptions, such as in pharmacies, but state legislators are asking everyone to cut back where they can.
It's estimated 23 billion plastic bags are used in New York State every year. Many are recycled, but most end up in landfill, in waterways, or the street.
Critics say just banning the bags doesn't go far enough, as over 90% of plastic waste in the US isn't recycled. And New York isn't the first place to introduce such a ban. In 2002, Bangladesh became the first country to ban thin plastic bags.
New Yorkers value their convenience. It's a very fast-moving place. These bans are just the beginning of an effort to try to deal with the plastic problem that the world has. We're going to need to develop biodegradable plastics. We're going to need to reduce our use of these kinds of substances.
This grocery store in Brooklyn decided against using plastic bags before the ban was imposed. The owner says there should be more of a focus on education rather than waiting for regulation.
I see it more and more, people just bringing their own bag. It's becoming a norm. It's not a big deal, really. I don't know if one needs a government to tell them, don't use that bag. I think it can come from an individual, too.
The governor of New York says the plastic bag ban is just one step towards protecting the environment, and there's more work to be done. People will now have several months to get used to the new rules, after which retailers could be fined up to $500 for violations. Sarah Walton, CGTN, New York.
Let's now turn to Somalia, where some mental health patients are seeking treatment from, well, hyenas. Traditionally, the creatures are believed to have the power to frighten away evil spirits, blamed for mental illness. Here's CGTN's Daniel Arapmoy with the details.
This hand-painted sign shows a hyena chasing away a naked spirit. It leads to a shack where a hyena is locked up in a cage and used to treat mental illness patients. Traditionally, the Somali people believe that hyenas frighten away or devour evil spirits blamed for mental illness. The treatment involves locking mentally ill people in rooms with the unrestrained animals, leaving them vulnerable to injury. But Abdikani Ibrahim says his treatment is a little different. He instead keeps the animal in a cage, well fed, and he does not let it free.
We brought this hyena here 4 years ago and treated a lot of people who had the evil spirit. So the hyena helped the people and treated them, and we hope Allah will give them good health.
The treatment cost $10. Continued professional psychiatric care in Somalia might cost thousands of dollars. Mohammed and his brother Abdi arrived for treatment in a tuk-tuk vehicle. After having red cloths tied to his fingers, Mohammed enters the shack. He sits facing the hyena, hoping the animal would frighten away the evil spirits that have troubled him for a long time.
My brother went mad after our father ordered him to divorce his beloved wife. He told him to marry another wife. After that, his wife left him, and day after day he developed headaches and started crying whenever he saw his wife. He became mad and we brought him here for treatment.
The World Health Organization says Somalia has only 3 psychiatrists countrywide. Many people opt to seek the help of traditional medicine when it comes to mental health.
Some Somali people believe that mental health patients can be treated through contact with hyenas. It was a traditional belief that patients with hands tied sitting in front of a hyena would cry and run away from it. That would remove the evil spirit from the patient. I do not believe that a patient who has mental health problems can be treated that way. It's not scientific.
Doctors say there is no scientific basis for the hyena mental illness treatment, but at least the cage prevents injury. Healthcare professionals are urging those who are mentally ill to instead seek for clinical treatment rather than traditional treatment. Daniel Arab Moy, CGTN.
Well, let's now go to Uche Okoronkwo for the look at the day's business news. Uche.
Thank you, Beatrice. And here's a look at what's coming up on Africa Live Biz. Oil prices rebound as traders project supply cuts by OPEC this week. And Somalia welcomes a historic decision by the World Bank to normalize ties.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Now, oil prices rebounded more than $1 per barrel after earlier hitting multi-year lows on Monday. Analysts attribute the rebound to hopes of a deeper cut in output by OPEC and stimulus from central banks countering worries about damage to demand from the coronavirus outbreak. Now, Brent crude was at $51.31 a barrel, up about 3.3% from $48.4, the lowest since July 2017. Across the Atlantic, U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude hit a 14-month low of $43.32 per barrel before recovering to $46.11, up about 3%. Now, both marked their first gain after 6 sessions of losses, of course, amid virus worries. The coronavirus, which originated in China, has killed nearly 3,000 and roiled global markets as investors brace for a steep knock to world growth. Equities marked their biggest rout since the 2008 financial crisis last week. And in China, factories and companies have resumed production after the outbreak of the coronavirus. Here are some reactions from the business community in Egypt, one of the African nations with close economic ties with China.
We speak about the resumption of the Chinese factories and other businesses will also boost the economy, and hopefully the outcome or the repercussions of the outbreak of the coronavirus will not take long, and that would help similarly the global economy.
So we are discussing today what is the contingency, what is the alternatives that Egypt can do to overcome this uncertainty, because we are discussing the uncertainty. Nobody can have a clear information because it will take some time, maybe 1 month, 2 months, and also we are discussing what will be the impact on the global economy.
And let's head to Somalia now. The country has welcomed a historic decision by the World Bank to normalize ties. Now, the move is part of efforts to have Somalia's public debt written off, allowing it to access international aid critical to transforming the impoverished nation. From Mogadishu, CGTN's Abdulaziz Bello has more.
The decision to re-establish ties between Somalia and the global money lending institution was reached following a series of meetings. The country's finance minister, leading the Somali delegation to the talks in Washington, says the task ahead is enormous, but the latest endorsement from the international community is encouraging.
What we've been able to achieve today is show the world that as Somalis we are capable of coming together and achieving great things. The World Bank has attested to it. The international community has done the same. We've achieved all benchmarks set for us in a very short period of time.
The normalization of ties is expected to open a new chapter in the country's relations with financial lending institutions like World Bank, the International Monetary Fund and the African Development Bank. The Horn of Africa nation is seeking debt relief under the heavily indebted Poor Countries Program. The country's external debt stands at about $5.2 billion that has been declared unsustainable by IMF.
The arrears clearance in the normalization is an important first step. But what is most important, that we continue to support proactively Somalia in the months and years ahead in all its development aspiration. That is about providing the youth job opportunities, to providing education chances for girls and boys, to have health centers where women can go when they are pregnant and have a good treatment.
Last year, World Bank reopened offices in the country for the first time in 3 decades. Authorities say the move is a testament of increased donor confidence in its finance reforms program, one of which has been revenue mobilization that continues to record a steady growth in recent years.
This will allow Somalia to basically exit a situation of unsustainable debt and being able to focus its full energy again on the development rather to be burdened by unsustainable debt. So this is a very important another milestone for Somalia, and a critical one because it will allow the further normalization of its financial relationships with the international community.
A decision point is expected to be reached in March after the International Monetary Fund has secured $334 million to offset Somalia's public debt from more than 100 member countries. Authorities now hope to seek financial assistance in efforts to rebuild a nation destroyed by decades of conflict. Abdulaziz Bilo, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
And in Tunisia, new Prime Minister Elise Fakfek says economic priorities defined by his cabinet still remain insufficient for the country, given, of course, structural challenges in different sectors. Now, he wants a participatory approach to overhaul the development model, which they have adopted. CGTN's Adnan Ashaushi has more from Tunis.
The government's plan is based on large-scale projects that will be the core of a new social contract and will make of Tunisia a modern middle-income country with a high value-added economy. The first project of economic reform provides for investing in the digital revolution.
This national project will help usher Tunisia in the fourth industrial revolution. The digital revolution is a historic opportunity as it is based on human potential and does not require a lot of financial capital. Nearly 70% of all jobs in the future will be in the digital sector.
Energy transition is at the heart of the second project, as Tunisia is importing over 50% of its needs at a time when there are 300 annual days of sunshine.
There is need to tap into solar power to produce renewable energy as part of the strategy to achieve the hoped-for transition. Energy independence and security are among our top priorities.
The third project consists of working out a comprehensive strategy to gain access to markets in sub-Saharan Africa. Efforts will be made to urge Tunisian business operators to invest in these countries.
The new Premier's vision is to make Tunisia increasingly oriented towards Africa. He is intensifying efforts to step up and develop its trade with this continent, which has huge potential, and strengthen its African integration.
The government's fourth project consists of the reform of the agricultural and water sector. This project will take into consideration the social, economic, cultural, environmental and security aspects in the country.
Outgoing Premier Yusuf al-Shahid has handed over power to Elias al-Fakfak and his government.
Al-Fakhfakh declared during the official ceremony that a salvation and reform program was devised and that parties from across the political spectrum are fully aware of the critical situation. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Well, let's head to South Africa now. The city of Cape Town is embarking on a new initiative to become a data-mature city, which of course can take advantage of analytics to inform strategic decision-making. In support of this, the city is working with the Global Future Cities program on data management to shape policy making. This could improve service delivery for people in that city. Here's CGTN's Travis Andrews with the details.
From punch cards to large corporate IT systems, data is changing the way businesses approach their operational decision-making in just about every way. Now the city wants to follow suit and become a more data-driven region. And by joining the Global Future Cities program, it aims to better manage and solve complex city problems.
The city adopted a data strategy recently, which is to try and improve the way that we make strategic and operational decisions, and this involves departments across our organization as we try to take advantage of 21st century technologies and science and become a better and more effective service delivery organization.
The 3-year program will see the city foster a number of partnerships, including with the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office, which will provide technical assistance through the Global Future Cities program. Having big data analytics at the forefront of decision-making could see issues such as the costs of rates and services for the poor and wealthy managed much better.
We're talking about how the city manages and maintains its own data. A city accumulates huge amounts of data through its 4.5 million residents, businesses, and those that are traveling as tourists through the city. So, and part of this program is fundamentally how the city uses data to render better services to those that really need it, right, from a social perspective, but also growing economy.
With data expertise embedded deep within city structures, the possibilities of change for citizens are real, but there remains many challenges ahead, including housing and planning decisions that need to take into account historical social development issues. The city's new data strategy will certainly have to be innovative and progressive and redress some of the other wrongs of the past, including apartheid spatial planning, which has left a huge service delivery gap between more affluent areas and marginalized communities, and points to a far broader inequality issue that persists that the Global Future Cities program aims to solve. Travis Andrews, CGTN, Cape Town.
Well, that's all for now on Africa Live Biz. But coming up later on Global Business Africa, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa pushes for discussions with unions to contain rising public sector wages. We'll bring you more on that top of the hour. For now, it's back to you, Beatrice.
Uche, thank you. And we still have more news for you here on the program. Here's what's ahead. Couples in Nigeria take the leap into marriage with end of February weddings.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Kanata, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Leap year weddings are gaining traction in Nigeria. Every 4 years, couples set their wedding on the 29th of February. CGTN's Kalechi Mekalam tells us more about the growing fascination with the date.
After 5 months of courtship, Priye and Chineye are tying the knot. What's unique is theirs is a leap day wedding, and they were deliberate in their choice of a date.
I've always believed in unique
unique events and doing things in a special and memorable day. So actually, when we looked at the calendar and we tried to fix a date, and I noticed that that special date, we're in that year that has that special date, and we wanted it in that period, I didn't hesitate. I decided that yes, we should hold it on that day, and I believe that that is one of the unique things of this unique union that has been, established today.
A leap year occurs once every 4 years, having a total 366 days, including February the 29th as an intercalary day. This implies that officially their anniversaries would come up once in every 4 years, but each one has their peculiar plans to celebrate their wedding anniversary.
We do not think we need to wait for 1 year to mark anniversary. We just see ourselves every day as a special day in our life, and so it doesn't matter whether the anniversary comes 4 years or 1 year, but every day we just feel it's a special day in our life and we celebrate our marriage.
So I believe that if you do something every time and so frequently, it will not have so much value. So when we have to look up to our anniversary every 4 years, I believe when that 4th year comes, we would value it strongly, and our friends would really rally around to celebrate with us significantly because of the significance of that day every 4 years.
And for many here, it turns out a day that's highly sought after.
But I wish I have something as special as this. It's not something that comes just often. So the advice for them is to be happy with what they have and be patient until it comes, and make best use of it whenever it comes.
For leap year couples like Priye and Chineye, the next time they would be looking to officially celebrate their anniversary would be in 2024. Kelechi Amekalam, CGTN Lagos, Nigeria.
Let's now take a look at your sports news. Here's what's